This is lesson in a basic camera. We're going to talk about the particular camera in Blender and what we can record using kind of real world example. Okay. So first of all, the camera is a 35 millimeter film camera. It's a motion picture camera. It's meant for animation, but it's also you can also use it for stills, right? So it's what you would call consider a full frame size sensor if we're converting it into, let's say, film. All right, it's 35 millimeter. So this is not. If you're not familiar with film formats and film size, it's the smaller format. There's medium format and large format on top of it. Okay, so we're talking about focal length based on 35 millimeter. All right, so let's get a camera in here. So Shift A, I'm going to click Add right here. I'm going to add a camera. By default, the camera is perspective, of course. We do want it in there. There's orthographic if you want to do that kind of 45-degree isometric overhead shot. All right, but we're using it pretty much default right here. No need to do Shift X and Y. That's more for architectural photography where you need to get rid of distortion. Clip and start and this is basically if you're clipping where things are disappearing, then you need to kind of adjust this. Okay, so it starts off at 50 millimeter. All right, so let's see what the camera is seeing right now. There it is in the back right there. So to see what the camera is looking at, let me turn on screencast real quick. All right, and you need to press 0 on the numpad, or if you hit tilde right here, you can do view camera. You could also click this icon right here to switch to that, okay, what the camera is seeing. Here we go. So this is what the camera is seeing right now, okay? So I need to turn on under the sidebar. I need to lock the camera to view. That way I can control the camera very similar to your working camera, okay? So 50 millimeters, so this is kind of like a normal wide angle. It's good for, let's say, group photos such as this right here, okay? So, Gary, can you be on mute duty in case?
Yeah.
All right, so 50 millimeter, right? We can change the focal length, kind of very similar to motion camera and photography camera. So when it comes to filming, they don't really use some weird numbers right here. Even though you could, we pretty much set it to what we use in the real world, right? So common lens size would be 24 millimeter for extreme wide, 35 for wide angle, 50 for normal wide, okay? Then we can go 85 for medium close-up, 100 to 135 for close-up, and then probably 200 millimeter, 135 to 200 millimeter for extreme close-up. So we're talking about this because you're going to be needing some camera work for your commercial, okay? So there's reasons why we don't use just one focal length and then just kind of moving it forward closer to the subject to get a close-up, because you get what you call distortion, okay? So if I change the focal length here, so I'll split this image right, I'm in the screen right here. Let me see if I can grab, there you go. Vertical split. Okay, I'm going to split it like so that we could see what the camera's seeing right here, and then here will be the working camera, all right, where the camera will be. So the camera right now is right here, okay, and that's what we're seeing, all right? So I'm going to get rid of my sidebar here and over here as well. Let me see if I need to rock the screencast on and off. Just want to make sure it's working. There we go. Okay, so 50 millimeter, if I change this to, let's say, keep in mind that's where the position is. If I change this to, let's say, 85 for medium close-up or close-up shots, okay? What's going to happen is that the framing is tighter because we're using a longer lens, a focal length of 85, but the camera stayed in place. You see it? Okay, so I can go even farther, 135, closer. All right, right there, the camera didn't change, but the lens representation of this camera icon right here is longer. So it didn't move forward, but the framing is tighter, right? So if I go here, let's say 300, like you're filming safari or birds and whatnot. Okay, here we go. All right, so now it's 300 millimeter, exact same position. Look at the framing, super tight at this point. Okay, by the way, 1-to-1 is what's happening here when we move this here. Okay, it's the same thing if I move it right here. Oops, press the wrong button. Hold. There we go. All right, so it's 1-to-1. So you can either move your camera here or you can move it over here. It'll do the same thing. Okay. All right, so this is what's happening with our camera. So let's talk about basic camera kind of framing. Okay, so we can start with 24 millimeter. All right, look at 24 millimeter. Okay, so extreme wide. Look how much it's showing, and actually showing beyond our backdrop right there. Okay, so this is great for establishing shot where you have to show a massive amount of the background. Okay, like probably the ocean or the desert, something, or the expanding city. All right, so something like that. So 24 millimeter is for our wide shot. Okay, so wide shot for 24. All right. So this is 24 millimeter right here. Okay. So the other one would be kind of like, this is extreme wide, right? So, or ultra wide is what they call it, right? So here's a regular wide. We go to 35 millimeter. All right. You can still use it for establishing shot. Basically, establishing shot, you're establishing a when and a where. Right? So where is this place and when is this happening? Is it summer? Is it fall? Is it night? Is it day? Where, basically location. Okay? So 35 millimeter. Okay? So we're going to switch it to 50 millimeter, which is the default blender focal length. Okay? So it got a little tighter. Okay? I can even move this a little forward right here for that particular shot. So normal wide right here. So you could use this for environmental portrait, right? Environmental portrait means people photography that involves the background, okay? So it's also used for a full shot, okay? So full shot, basically it's a head to toe shot, okay? Framing. So let's say if I wanted to do a full shot of the mouse right here, I can go like so, closer. All right, and then there you go. Maybe a little bit of headroom on that one. All right, there you go. Full shot of the mouse, okay? You cover head to toe, not a lot of headroom. You just don't want it. I mean, you can make it a little tighter, of course. Okay, right there. But always keep in mind there's action safe and a title safe. I would back this out just by a hair like that. All right, so for 50 millimeter focal length, we are dealing with full shot, okay? So for this one, we can say full shot, okay? So full shot. Trying to write with a mouse. Full shot, 50, right? When you need like establishing shot, aka wide, depending on how wide, but you can get away with pretty much with 35. Okay, so if you want a close-up, you would use an 85. So let's switch to 85 right here, or medium close-up. Medium close-up, it's basically, or the two-button shot. It's kind of like a combination of medium shot, which is waist line from waist going up, and then a close-up, which is basically like a headshot. Okay, so let's go with. We could use a 50 for a medium shot. So let's go also for a medium shot here. So I'm going to move this closer as well. So this is going to be a medium shot. All right, right there. Okay. So waist area right here, it can go a little tighter. Right there, okay? So you can also use 50 for this one, okay? So but where you're trying to introduce now a little bit of distortion. So you're probably thinking, why can't we just use, let's say 24 and just move it closer? We'll get the same framing. And you are absolutely correct. You will get the same framing, except the problem would be the distortion, okay? So I'm on 50 right now in medium close-up, right? Let's go to our ultra-wide, which was 24 millimeter. There it is. What I'll do is move this closer, okay? So if I were at the top right there, I'm going to grab my move tool and move this one. And you'll see here that that nose of that one is not, you're not going to be happy with that shot right there, because not unless this is part of the story where you're trying to show that something is wrong. You know, there's, you know, someone is hallucinating, they're drunk, there's alcohol or narcotics involved, or, you know, so there's like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. If you've seen that movie, they do this exaggerated shots, okay? They push wide angle shots, and then so it's like there's this uneasy feeling, right? So but if you didn't mean to do that, then you're violating your story by introducing possible confusion to your audience, where, you know, you use a wide angle shot for a close-up, and your audience is like, it's like it doesn't look normal, right? But to you it's normal because you didn't know what you're doing, and hence you ruin the story. Okay, so film, cameras and focal length, and the way you would frame it, it's part of the storytelling process. So you would have to do pretty much the same thing what you would do for, let's say, commercial and whatnot. Don't use the wrong focal length for particular framing. Okay, so for this one, if we wanted to do a close-up like this, we don't need to move the camera closer. I'm going to click undo, put it back. We'll change the focal length to, let's say, 85. Okay, so here we get a you know, the perspective, it's still correct, no exaggeration. It's just that this mouse does have a big nose, so but it's not stretched. All right, so this would be the same thing for people photography. So if you've done some portraiture before and you only brought, let's say, a 35 millimeter, and your client wanted a close-up, you don't have a choice there. You would have to get so close to them, and then they're not gonna be happy with the result. They're gonna have a huge forehead or a nose, or any features that they don't like about themselves will be exaggerated. Okay, so for a close-up, all right, so for close-up, basically this is actually medium close-up right here, but we could use an 85. But if you want a close-up, sometimes 85 will not let you get closer because of I mean, real world lens. Okay, there's a minimum focal distance, so you might have to go with a 135 to do a close-up. So for a medium close-ups, I'm just gonna go MCU. You know, use kind of an 85 millimeter right here. For close-up CU, you can use an 85 depending on how tight you want it. So this will vary all the way to 135. Okay, so close-up 85 to 135, medium close-up, which is basically in between a medium shot, which is waistline right here, and the head, so it goes in between. Okay, so if we go for a close-up 135, all right, and this is not extreme close-up yet, folks. All right, it's just a close-up, so probably too close here. Just drag it back. All right, right there. And then of course we need to do extreme close-up. This is when you're detailing, you just want to show one eye, the nose, the ear, you know, or you know, the hand on the watch, something like that. So we would go a much longer, maybe 200 millimeter, and then we would frame this one. Right there. Oh, there we go. So we would call this one extreme close-up in the territory of, you know, 135, and beyond. Okay, kind of like 200, 300, so on and so forth. Whatever it is that you need to get that shot. Okay, so an extreme close-up. All right, so to do a review here, for our establishing shot, wide shot, we use a low number, 24. Okay, so we go 24, and this is way too close now because I kept moving it for our close-up. So let me pull this back to the way it was. All right, so there's our, okay, 24 millimeter cameras that far. Okay, so establishing shot, wide shot, showing the environment for sure. Establishing shots are, typically, if we're just kind of following by the book, they would, it's usually its location and time of day or season. It answers to the question of where and when. There could be a character in there. There could be a subject, but usually it's a wide shot. But it's not always like that. Sometimes they have a pull. They pull it back to reveal, and it reveals the shot establishes the location and the date or the season, but first being mysterious by doing a close-up, and then they pull it back. So not necessarily all wide. Okay, so 24 is our wide shot. Okay, extreme wide shot. Then we can go to 35. All right, so this is just like normal wide. Okay. Then we can go 50 for full shot, head to toe, okay? And then we can go 85 for medium shot or medium close-up, okay? Then we can go 135 for close-up, and we can go 200, or in this case, probably a 400 millimeter for extreme close-up. Okay, so it all depends on what you're trying to accomplish. All right, so and this is also that we don't get that distortion. So don't use any wide-angle lens for close-up, not unless that's part of your story. Okay, so now. Since we're just changing the focal length of this, so let me put this back to 50 here, or 35. Okay, so since we're just what do you call this? Changing the focal length of one camera. The question is, do I just use one camera and then just change it and whatnot? No, I mean cameras here are free, right? In production, there's two types of production: multi-camera or a single camera. Even a single camera shot uses multiple cameras. It's just that they only shoot per lighting, okay? Because they can't do a close-up and a medium shot simultaneously, because all the props for lighting and all that bounce card will show up in the wide shot, okay? So we could use multiple cameras in Blender, okay? So let's say I'm going to create cameras for all this, right? So that's camera right there. I'm gonna name it now camera 01, so that when I duplicate it, it will just append the name, okay? So I'm gonna do Shift D on this one. So our camera 1 would be, I'm gonna leave it first, that's gonna be 24, all right? That's our camera 1. We're gonna call this one Extreme Wide Shot, EWS, all right? So I'm going to duplicate it, Shift D. Okay. Oops, right here. All right, so we have another camera. We're going to call this one camera 02. Wide shot, and we're going to go with a 35 millimeter on this. All right, so remember, you have to click this icon to go in and out of camera, right? Or press 0 on the numpad. However, how do we get to see the new camera 02 wide shot at 35 millimeter, right? So if you see this icon right here, you simply click this and it switches to that, okay? So this is 24 and then this is 35, all right? So the other way to do it too is like select your camera right here. When you do Control 0 on the numpad, it will switch to the other camera as well. So if I go like this, okay, oh, right here, I need to be right here. Oh, There we go, Control 0, okay? So, but let me go to the top right here. Just click this icon right here, then that becomes the active camera. You can also go to View, Camera, Set Active Camera. Oh, it's numpad on the Mac, but it should still work. Let's see, Command 0. For some reason it's not switching. All right, I'll just use this icon. All right, so let's go. I'm going to duplicate this again, Shift D. This one will be our normal wide. So normal wide shot, okay, or full body, or let's call it full shot, FS, full shot, okay. And this one will be 50 millimeter, okay. And then let's switch to let's actually give it a number here, 03, not 02. Okay, let's switch to that. And then, all right, so that's our full shot. Let me just reframe it real quick. All right, right there. So I move it right there. So 24 millimeter extreme wide shot right here. Close up, okay. So now let's continue from that one. I'm going to duplicate this. Camera 4. All right, so this will be our medium shot, MS. All right. And this one will be our, we can use the 50 also for this one, okay. So let's switch to that camera right here, but let's frame our Leo right here. All right, there's Leo, medium shot. There you go. You want a little bit of headroom right there. Okay, we are using rule of thirds right here for composition and using those as backdrop. All right, so we got our medium shot. Okay, there it is. Again, 24, 35, 50, and another 50 for a medium shot. All right, so camera 04, I'm going to duplicate it. All right, let's rename this to camera 5. This will be our medium close-up, MCU, and this one will be 85 millimeter. All right, so that's 85. Let's switch to that one. All right, so there's our medium close-up. Just kind of reframe it a bit. Okay, so from medium shot, medium close-up. All right, so all right, so we're 85 right here. All right, so let's do a close-up on, let's duplicate this again, Shift D. This will be camera 06. All right, this is close-up CU, so basically a headshot. We're gonna go with 135 on this one. Okay, and let's switch to that. Let's see who we can do a close-up of. Let's do a close-up on our mouse right here. Maybe change the angle a bit. All right, there's our close-up, okay? And finally, we need an extreme close-up, so we're going to duplicate this again, Shift D. Oh, right here, sorry. Shift D, camera 7. Extreme CU or close-up. Okay, so we're gonna go 250 millimeter on this one. So let's switch to that, and we're basically showing just the eye. Most likely we're gonna do a point of view shot next, right? Because it's that's what you do. That's you lead your audience to what's about to kind of happen. Not unless you want to make it mysterious, like you don't want to know whose point of view it is, then you don't reveal such things. Okay, so right here, quick review. We're going to, let's go to our layout right here. Okay, I'm going to go to the layout, turn off the overlay, and then let's do our camera one at a time. So right here, Okay, let me just. All right, we can leave it like that. All right, so extreme wide shot, 24 millimeter. Then right here we go with wide shot, 35 millimeter. Full shot at 50. Medium shot at 50 also. You can also do 85 on this. Just gotta move it. You get less distortion. Medium close up at 85. Okay. Close up at 135, basically a headshot. Okay. And then extreme close up at 250 here. You can also do 300 or 200. Basically, you're now trying to make sure that the audience sees only what you want to see, what you want them to see. All right. So that's our kind of camera breakdown on focal length. Okay. So how do we switch between these? All right. So that's the when you're animating, like how do you kind of switch? All right. So that's all actually pretty easy. It's all camera. Marking. Okay. So let's extend our camera here to, let's say, 300 frames. Okay. Our timeline, sorry, not camera. All right. So let's say we want to use this one, our first shot, which is the extreme wide shot. So while the camera is selected like so, and you're viewing it, right? So what you need to do is go to the timeline right here. Make sure your cursor is here, and then you do Control B. What it does, it sets a marker where on frame 1, you're watching camera 1, which is not a big deal because whatever it is you pick on the first one, it's what will be revealed, right? But we're making a point here that you're marking that, right? So let's say after 80 frames, right? After 80 frames, we switch to camera 2 right here. So once we're viewing that, we drag our timeline here on 80. I'm going to do Control B. All right. So now there's another marker. So as you can see here, from 1 to 79, it will switch to that one, right? So you don't really want to do something like that. We're just doing this as a marking example because that's pretty close to what you call a jump cut, right? Where the two frames are very close to framing, and it kind of makes this jolt or this jarring jump. They call it jump cut. That's a violation, not unless, again, part of your story, because jump cut is a storytelling tool, right? So let's not use wide shot here. Let's do something a little bit different, all right? So I'm going to put it back to 80. So I'm going to overwrite my marker. I'm going to go with, let's say, a medium shot, okay? So look at a medium shot right there. And then I'm going to do Control B to overwrite that. So now previously we have our extreme. Oh, yeah, I did Control B. You have to got to practice what you preach, right? So make sure your cursor is in the timeline when you do Control B to mark the camera. So here, extreme wide shot. Full shot right here, okay, full shot. And then let's say at 140 frames, we want to switch back to that wide shot. So right here, cursor again in timeline, Control B, you have that marker again. So we have that shot. Then at 80, it will change to that one. And then to this one, all right. And then let's say right here, we're going to do an extreme close-up at frame 190. Okay. Right here, Control B. All right, it's that simple. So it used to be here, then it went here. All right, it went here, and then let's say at frame 240, we go with our medium close-up. We're just going through the all the stuff we did, and then at let's say at 270, which one we haven't shown? Maybe full shot. All right, full shot right here. Control B. All right, and then all our cameras are marked. They do have the name of the camera on each, so you know which one you plan for your. Basically, you're editing on camera at this point, right? The reason for that is it's not recommended when you're doing animation, film, right? But in animation, you pre-edit because rendering is so expensive, right? It's not like you want to, you don't have what we call in video handles. Like you pre-record, you give it 10-second extra at the beginning, 10 extra seconds at the end, so that when you're editing, you have this leeway and whatnot. In animation, it's so expensive, you have to be more precise, all right? Because that extra 10 seconds could mean 10 days of rendering, all right? So now let's do a playback. So it's just going to switch cameras as the timeline moves based on the marker, all right? That's how simple it is to change your camera. So now that you understand which one is the proper focal length for the type of shot that you're doing, okay, you can then position all your cameras and mark it in your timeline so that it moves to those cameras, and you can do your, we're going to do our blocking or our animatic. Basically, it's a 3D storyboard, okay, to get all your timing and so on and so forth. And then we will get back into producing the commercial, okay? So that concludes the basic camera lesson. Basically, it's a camera framing and what do you call this? Switching camera. Oh, I forgot. Depth of field also. Okay, so depth of field effect is basically rack focusing, right? It's a storytelling tool again. Whatever's sharply focused, you want your audience to look at. Whatever's blurred, you don't want them to see it. It's not important. Or you can switch your rack focus to switch what's important. Okay, so you're basically telling your audience to, hey, go take a look at this. This is important. Don't look at that. That's not important. So on and so forth. All right. So we're going to use our, let me see here. Maybe this full shot, or let me see. I'm going to use one of the cameras. See our close-up. All right. We're going to use our MCU here, but I will rotate it a bit. Oh, sorry. I need to lock the camera. So I can, all right, so I do want to do that a little bit so I'm reframing our medium close-up. Okay, all right, so how do we turn on the depth of field effect in Blender? Make sure the camera is selected. Make sure you're in object mode, right? So we go to our camera tab right here. We've got our perspective, focal length, right? And then there's this portion right here where it says depth of field, right? To turn on depth of field, you simply put a check mark and you tell which part you want to be sharp, okay? So you can set distance if you know, because we can turn on distance right here, but it's simpler to just use the eyedropper and then pick this object right here, which I don't know why I haven't renamed the face of Leo right here. I still call it plane, but plane is this one right here, okay? So we're going to focus on this one, and already you can already tell that the background slightly got blurred. All right, let me turn it on. There you go. So that's kind of slightly blurred right there. But to make it more dramatic, we have to open up our f-stop. We got to lower the number. So it's 2.8 and it's not cutting it really. It works a little bit, okay? So we're going to go to, let's say, a really expensive lens. We're going to go with 1. All right, there you go. So you can see that's blurred right now, and it's selective focusing, all right? Of course, lighting would play a part right here. You want a little bit of contrast. Leo is just too bright. The background's still a little bright right there, but you can tell right there that the blurring happens. It's that how easy it is, right? Blades would be the blade on your shutter. The more blades, when you render, the smoother that blurring happens in the back. However, it adds to your render time. So just kind of leave that as 0 for now, okay? Let's say we want more blur, right? So you want to go with more expensive lenses. I'm going to go 0.5. All right, now it's really blurred, and we could really tell right here the effect on Leo. He's super sharp. The background is blurred, okay? Let's try it on another camera. It works best on longer lenses, of course. Let's do a full shot right here. Okay, so for the full shot, we want to focus, let's say, on our mouse right here. So let's turn on depth of field. Okay, let's select the mouse. And then let's lower our 0.5 on our f-stop. And there it is. Okay, we can go 0.2 right here to really blur that background. And a Coke behind, all right? So the depth of field basically is the area that is in focus, right? And that thing gets shallow or it gets deep depending on your, depends on factor of your f-stop, right? Your f-stop, the shallower or the bigger it is, right? Your lens velocity, and we're talking tremendous amount of dollars when it comes to bigger aperture, right? So we're opening our aperture and whatnot, okay? All right, there it is. So turning it off and then on, you get to see what's happening here, which is basically blurring, okay? So that's how you turn on depth of field. You simply select first which one you want in focus, and then you play with your f-stop. The smaller the number, the more blurred in the back. All right, and that concludes our demo.